Hello, everyone. I'm joined here by Advocate Janvi Sharma from Women Data Protection Foundation. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us today. So, ma'am, to begin the whole conversation with, I would like to understand your interest and the core reason why you pursued cyber law. Okay. So, I was interested in, I would say, computer science since beginning when I was student in my school, in my primary schools. That time also I was very much interested in computers, and the whole day I used to work on computers. I used to play games like a tomboy, and I never played with girls, I would say. Like they used to play, like when I was in my schools in fifth or sixth standards, every girl used to play with dolls or the kitchen games, something like that. I always prefer playing video games or some games on computer. I was very much interested in learning the languages of computer at very young age, or when I was just 10 or 11. I learned C++. And but when the right time was there to choose the stream, because of some medical issue, I'm a cancer survivor basically, and because of that major issue, I didn't get the subject of my choice, which was computer science along with PCM. And I ended up with taking commerce because of that particular reason. And I started because my father always wanted me to study law, because then he wanted to pursue law because of some financial problems. He couldn't do that. So I chose BCom LLB. I would rather say my father chose BCom LLB for me. But in my first year, I came across, when I was studying in library, I just came across a BEAR Act known as Information Technology Act 2000, IT Act, which is a cyber law of India. And since then, I never looked back. I always wanted to pursue cyber laws since then. And that was the time when I decided that I will go in this particular stream only because it satisfy my, or it makes me content, I would rather say, that it is something which is very much related to computers. So that was something I thought of and I did. Definitely. And I believe that cyber law is something that is very prominent now. But back then it was not something that was very well known or, prominent in the, society. So what were your opinions on that, and how have you tried to, take it forward in, the next coming years of your career to make a point that yes, this is something I want to pursue and this is something that I believe should be very prominent in the society? Very rightly said. At that time when I chose cyber law, pre-COVID, the people, they were not very much aware about cyber laws. There are very less cyber lawyers in the society back then. If I remember, like if I think of now who were the people that time, so I remember only 3 or 4 names: Advocate Dr. Prashant Mali, Dr. Pawan Duggal, Advocate Karnika Seth. And I studied, he's not an advocate basically, he's a professor and he used to work in banking, who is Nabi. So these names I know in cyber laws, which were known that time also. Now there are so many lawyers in cyber laws. And I faced a lot of challenges while I was choosing the stream, because my parents and my family was totally against, because there were I think zero opportunities for a fresher, and for someone who is a first generation lawyer, there were zero opportunities in cyber law. But when I look now, there are like tremendous opportunity if someone from a legal background wants to pursue their career in tech. But I believe that there has to be some changes in the curriculum as well. In the university, the pattern which universities are currently following for the undergraduates who are studying LLB or some integrated program like BCom LLB, which I did, or BLLB or BBLLB, these are the major courses which are in most of the law schools. So there has to be some changes in that also. Now we have AI coming into picture. Because of artificial intelligence coming into the picture, cyber scope in cyber law is booming. Now you can become a data protection lawyer also, you can become an AI lawyer also, and cyber law, if you understand and you are coming from a BTech background who studied computer science as well, then you can be a complete tech lawyer who can solve the issues of blockchains, who can, who understand the technology at the core. You need to understand what is encryption, what is the difference between encryption and hashing, because the people, the lawyers, they will not be able to understand those terminologies. And that is the reason why I chose and ended up choosing data protection, because I don't come from a core technical background where I understand these terminologies in the very deeply. I understand it better than other lawyers, but still I feel like when I chose data protection, I was not able to understand these terminologies. It came up for me. It came up with practice and continuously working in this field. But for now, I will say there are a lot of opportunities for the lawyers and for the law students. Definitely. And according to you, like once you actually stepped into the field of cyber law and data protection as well, I'm sure you had a lot of mentorship, but also there must have been some, key hardships that you might have come across where you found it very difficult to persevere, but you still moved on. So what are these, hardships that you face and how you tried to overcome them? So when I started studying, or I would say started my career in cyber laws, so at that time, I was, as I just mentioned, that I was not able to understand the difference between hashing, what is encryption, what is tokenization. And these are the terminologies which are being used in corporates. If anyone wants to build their career in cyber law or cyber security or data protection or AI, they need to understand these basic terminologies. And we were not taught these terminologies in our law school. So we can only understand these terminologies if we will intern under some advocate, or if we will start working, or maybe we will take some certification course, or from outside only we can understand and only be supplemented. Yes, but in law schools they are not teaching us these things. Their IT Act define hashing, in IT Act there is hashing is written in IT Act, but the professors who are teaching us in the law schools, they are also the lawyers, right? They also study the traditional law, so they are also not very much well versed, like what they just know what is written and how they want to teach us in our mother language. That is only what they are doing with the IT law. They are not giving us any practical exercise or anything like that. And that was the reason why I always wanted to do internships in cyber law. So I faced a lot of challenges in understanding the computer system and what are the security mechanism, or what we call them, security safeguards. It was my biggest challenge to understand, because at that time there was no job role like cyber lawyer. Either you can start in cyber security. If you are a lawyer, then it is well good. They do not have any problem with that. If you know ISO 27001, which is the ISMS, so if you know that, then you can start your job in cyber security also. But ISO 27001 also talks about those controls only. And it talks about firewalls, it talks about these terminologies which I just mentioned to you. So I was not able to understand those things, and it took around 1.5 year for me to understand those terminologies. And then after that I started my career in data protection, because when we talk about GDPR or DPDPA, so they also talk about these things only. And for someone who just studied law, IPC
and CRPC, evidence law, they will not be able to understand these terminologies. So that was our biggest challenge for me.
Mm-hmm. And like you mentioned, GDPR, DPDP Act. Now, in the recent news, also, of course, DPDP Act has also been something that has been coming out, and in the next couple of months, I think in 15 to 18 months, it will see something that will be in active implementation. So, according to you, when it comes to applying laws such as GDPR, such as DPDP into an enterprise level, company or something like that. So, in that case scenario, what kind of hardships or difficulties can be faced to kind of design protocols that are privacy first? Okay, so there is a major gap. So, to simplify it, I will say that companies are very good in making policies. But when it comes to implementing those policies, they don't know how to start with that. Because whenever we develop a product, we develop that product for the business. We never develop that product with a view that we need to design it like in accordance with privacy. We need to design this product in accordance with the security, because even if they will put some elements of security, no, privacy automatically will come. But the organizations are facing this gap that they want to do business and they are thinking from a business perspective, which is very normal. All the companies, they are incorporated just to do business only. Privacy, security is a part of the compliance. But when it comes to design, they don't know how to do that. And it becomes a major challenge for the company also, for any corporate to incorporate those privacy by design elements or security by design elements in the product or in the software since beginning. So this is the major issue which all the corporates are facing right now. The another issue is the awareness. So the organizations, they are not aware. Now when I say the organizations are not aware, I'm not talking about the CEO, I'm not talking about the privacy team of that organization, I'm not talking about the infosec, I'm not talking about the governance, I'm talking about the HR, I'm talking about the project team, I'm talking about the teams. So in an organization there might be different products. For every single product, there's a different team. There's a different business team, there's a different product team, there's a different marketing team, and also there's an HR team, there's an admin team. So those teams, they don't know anything about privacy. They don't know anything about security. What they know is, when we talk about privacy, they are like, privacy तो पूरा ही है, ये तो ऐसे ही होगा. They are, because they cannot learn those things in a day or even in a month or in 2 months or even in 2 years. When IT Act came, if we talk about IT Act, it has been 26 years. How many people who are working in the corporates, they know about the IT Act? They don't know about the IT Act, what IT Act says. If Section 43 is the whole foundation of IT Act. If I will ask anyone what is Section 43, they will not be able to answer what is Section 43. So, the same way, the organizations, they don't know about the privacy. They don't know what exactly come in the personal data, which is the core foundation of a Data Protection Act. When I will ask anyone what is data principle, what is personal data, how sensitive personal data and personal data is differentiated, and under which law sensitive personal data is defined, they will not be able to differentiate. Definitely. And every particular organization has different critical data elements also. Every organization is different. Their business is different. So these are the two major challenges which I feel because of which organizations are not complied with privacy, and it is a long journey. It will take some time. Definitely, it's like you said correctly, it's a compliance, it's a checkbox. Yeah, that it is swept off to the side, like ठीक है हो जाएगा. It is something that can be done in the later time. Right now, it has come in our culture. Definitely, anything which we are just doing for the sake of compliance,
can never be in our culture, which we are like, if we take normal daily life example, if we are doing something just to show our parents that we are very nice, we are doing whatever you are saying, that is not us, that is not in our personality. We are just doing it for the sake to make our parents happy so that they don't say us anything. All the corporates this time, they are just doing that only for the sake of compliance, just to make the government happy so that they don't penalize them. They are just doing that, whatever the minimum they can do. They are not trying to incorporate those elements into their culture. And I will say that can be a very problematic thing in later time.
Definitely, with the rise of enterprise AIs and general AIs as well, generative AIs that we have, we do notice that a lot of employees take it up. It is kind of termed as shadow AI, that, they'll put their company details into it, regardless of, whether someone else's privacy is involved or not. Enterprise privacy is involved. There's confidential data involved. So how do you see the role of AI kind of defining data protection in the future?
So, artificial intelligence, I will say it is like a devil, because artificial intelligence is going to harm in so many aspects which we can't even imagine. I for start with a very basic thing. AI has already started eating a lot of jobs. AI has started eating our brains. I will also say that, because now the students or the generation which is coming up, even we if we talk about us also, there are so many things which we are not even want to research on Google. Researching on Google is a very, very simple skill or very easy skill that everyone should have. But for our daily tasks, we are not even trying to do something on Google. We just do either Chat GPT. If someone is very much okay with Chat GPT, they are doing it on Chat GPT. If we are very much okay with Perplexity, we are doing everything on Perplexity, we are doing on Claude, we are doing on Gemini, and there are so many tools which just came in the picture. Everyone is just creating the AI tool, and creating an AI tool is a very, very easy thing. It is just because the AI will also tell you the prompt, the AI will create another AI. It is very easy thing. Now, Perplexity and ChatGPT, they are saying we are offering 1 year uh, premium membership to all Indians free. Why they are doing that? Because they need the data.
Yes.
And are we that educated that we are only putting the normal data in the in ChatGPT or in any AI? No, we are not that educated.
Mhm.
India has a huge population. It is not you, me, or the people who know about these things. There are so many people who are putting every single thing on AI. The people are now putting their date of birth, time of birth, and trying to find out their Kundli on ChatGPT or another AI. They are putting everything. Now the people are creating their pictures and everything they are creating. Why ChatGPT and Perplexity, they are doing this thing? They are just doing it so that they can train their models on basis of your data. And ChatGPT gives a clear notice that please think twice or thrice if you are putting any personal data.
If you be used.
Yes, it will be used. So, but people are not educated. So this is how AI is harming the personal data, or this is how it is I will say it is very dangerous for the personal data. That is a very basic example which I can give. And in corporates also, so many people, so many employees, what they do is that if they are not understanding something, they want to use AI. But corporates are saying, no, you can't use Copilot, you can't use this in your devices. So, what the recent things or articles in which I was reading is that people, they are clicking the pictures of the computer or of the laptop, and they are uploading the same thing on their phone's application on ChatGPT or something like that. So we can say that the ChatGPT and Gemini, they already have the corporate data as well. They have all the data, because either save my job. Every individual is thinking that they need to save their job. And For that, if they need to use AI, what's an harm? The organization will not be able to know about that thing.
Of course.
So AI is a very harmful thing and harmful technology, I will say. And everything has a positive side also. So if we will make the people aware about what are the high risk of AI, then people, I feel like, at least in the people who are staying in the metro cities, they'll be able to understand, okay, this is something which we need to take care of.
Cautious about it.
Yes.
So, like what you said is right. Like when we get these things for free, we forget that we are the product here. It's our data that will be farmed in this case scenario, and
That's our data. We are the data.
we are the data at this.
We are their money and everything. They just want to buy us, not just the data which we are putting. We are the data for them.
Definitely. So now moving on to Women in Data Protection Foundation that you have.
Women Data Protection Foundation.
Yes. So in this, I wanted to understand how you thought of, building this foundation, building something that kind of inspires women around to kind of look into their own data protection, kind of build their own careers also maybe around it. So if you can give us an idea on that.
We want to celebrate women. We want to celebrate every single woman on this planet Earth who are working in data privacy and who understand data privacy, because it is very, very essential, not just for developing your career into this field, but it is very much important when AI coming into picture, and when you have a duty of raising your next generation. Now, wherever I go in any corporate event, I always see all the speakers and most of the people who are participating in that particular event when it comes to technology. Everyone is men. The room is filled with 80% of men. And that was the main reason why I wanted to come up with something which is for women and by the women. So we started with this foundation in year 2024, and right now we have 200 plus members. They all are into data protection, and a few people also we are adding now who wants to build their career into data protection. So this started with an idea which came in year 2023 when I started a WhatsApp group, and in 2024 we incorporated WDP Foundation. So it is to celebrate women, it is to empower women, it is to create more and more opportunities for the women. And because if we will create some good opportunities for the women, we are already doing for the entire society. Because if we will educate or empower one woman, she will not just empower 10 other women, but she will also empower her entire family, her at least next generations also. So that is the whole idea of establishing WDP Foundation.
Definitely, that's amazing. And I'm sure that now that you are actually helping women also build their careers. So if you can talk a little bit more about that, what kind of mentorship do they receive? What kind of events, what kind of resources do they receive from the foundation when it comes to building their own career?
Okay. So the first thing is that there are so many women who are excellent, who know everything about data protection. They have a lot of IPP certifications. They are either MTech, they are either LLM, either they are pursuing their PhD. The problem which they were facing is the leadership qualities. Because leadership qualities, it is very right that a few people born with the leadership qualities, but leadership is something which can be taught as well. So in WDP, we are creating those leadership opportunities wherein you have entire responsibility of building up something, and even if you fail, we are there to give you a back. We are holding hand of each other that, okay, if something goes wrong, we are there for you. Don't worry, you just try to uplift yourself. This is the first thing which we are doing. The another thing is that we are in the phase of signing MOUs with the institutions, with the colleges, with the universities, wherein we are providing free data protection awareness, or I would say the basic training, where we are just trying to develop the foundations of DPDPA, GDPR, and data protection as a whole for the students, so that they can start their career in data protection. The another thing which WDP is offering is networking for a large community. We are we do bi-weekly calls with the core team. We do monthly webinars. We do monthly meetups with the members of WDP Foundation. So this is something which we are doing. We are as a whole, we are celebrating data protection also, and we are celebrating the women as well. So this is what we are doing.
So, what would be your advice to the next generation of women who will be leading in their careers of data protection and in general for their own protection as well? What would be your advice?
So the first thing, I will go with your next question for protecting their personal data. It is very important for every individual, especially for women, that whatever they are posting on social media, on Instagram, or if they are using any other social media like Snapchat or something like that, so they should be very cautious. If they are traveling, they should not, post all their locations, at what time they are, at which location, because the young girls who are 18, 17, or 16, even 19, 20, they do that thing.
Yeah.
They post everything. It is not important to post every personal moment or everything about what is going in your personal life to post at the same time. If you want to post, or if you love to post, or even if you are a vlogger or something like that, you can post it later. It is not important that wherever you are, you need to tell to the people. Another is, many people, they post their credit cards picture or something like that. It is just kept on the table and you post something. So that should be avoided, because if you do that, then you can be a victim of cyber fraud as well. Now, coming back to your first question, that I'm sorry, I missed your question.
Your advice to the women who are approaching their careers in data protection?
Yes. So there are a lot of opportunities in data protection right now. And if you start doing the certification courses which are available online, you can do those courses. And the job packages these days for data protection, they are starting right from 50,000 per month to maybe 2 lakhs or 2.5 lakhs also, for the beginner or for the fresher as well. So there are a lot of good opportunities for the women, or for like everyone out there who want to build their career in data privacy. You can be a data privacy analyst, you can be into consultancy also, you can work for the product companies also, you can even do research work also. Right now, the MeitY is also in the process of, hiring people who understand data protection. I4C has, I think, they released some application, this thing, notification also for the people who want to apply for data protection role. And so many government organizations like NCW and I4C, and so many other organizations also, they are opening the applications for data protections. There are a lot of opportunities for everyone in the field of data protection now. Majorly, since the rules came, and it is just 15 months now to DPDP to be enforced, there are a lot of opportunities out there. And men should not be worried, because they are mostly worried if something goes wrong with their personal data. So there are so many things out there. They can call to cyber cell, they can complain on 1980, they can also file their complaint on www.cybercrime.gov.in. So there are everything which government is also doing, and most importantly, they can join us at WDP Foundation. We will take care of empowering them and training them and everything that is required.
Definitely. Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking out the time today and having this talk with us. I'm definitely sure that it is something that a lot of our audience members will be, excited to learn about, especially the young ones who are looking forward to build their own careers and looking forward to, having leaders and mentors like you as well. So thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.